Robert McQueen, I adore you. I'm so happy you're here. I was thinking back to when we first met in Lori and John Noble's apartment, which feels like that was before my tour. It feels like it was like 5-6 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Easily, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy to see your happy face.
Good to see you too. Here we are. Here I am in Stratford, Ontario.
And are you in an apartment, a home, renting?
Yeah, this place I landed in is really great. It's quite small. I mean, you can sort of see the back wall of it where that
Cute.
little Buddha is. So this is actually the upper floor of a house, and my friends, the two Davids, live downstairs. So it's a single house, but they had divided it when they moved in. I think probably just because of the number of theater makers and directors and actors and designers that come into Stratford for the season, there's a big call for accommodation. So I think they built this specifically to be able to be used for accommodation, but of course there's no festival. So they've kindly allowed me to rent here for the next little while, or for the next long while, who knows.
How long have you been out there?
I came out here in July. I was in Toronto, and I had directed a production, the biggest production we had done at Musical Stage Company. We revisited Caroline or Change, which we had done back in 2012, and we did it again with a largely new company of actors, and we did it in a much larger space. We did it at the Winter Garden, which is sort of a commercial size space. And then I went to Mexico to teach, and I came back and I was doing a workshop, and we had just finished the workshop literally, and everything shut down. So in the midst of all that, I had moved into an apartment that was the size of, a stick-it note. And I sort of got 2 months into it, and I thought, I'm not going to do this. I can't. I'll go to my mind. Because I had a whole year that I was going to be traveling and working and doing this. And of course, everything went away or has been postponed. So I suddenly thought, I've directed in Stratford before. I love it here. I have a long family history here from generations ago. And I thought, I'm going to go there for a month. And I came here in July, and then I just haven't left. I just stayed, So I gave up the apartment in Toronto. I let it go. And I've stayed here, and it feels, I love, this is a very, very pretty, it's not a town. I mean, it's like a 32,000 people. So, and it's beautiful. And, I go for a walk, and people open their doors and say hello, and it's very nice.
It's like the opening to Beauty and the Beast. You
bonjour, bonjour. I know it's or either that, or it does sound a bit like our town, but it's very, very nice. It's very warm and very friendly here. So it feels like a good place to be.
That's great. So what are you doing in Stratford? You mentioned you had some projects, but no festival.
Well, it's interesting. When all of this happened, I don't know how you felt when it all sort of shut down in March. I mean, it was chaos, and everyone was sort of trying to figure out what was going on, and nobody knew. And I just remember I was meant to be starting rehearsal like 2 weeks after everything locked down for another project. And which Tracy Michaelides and I had worked with that designer in her past project. So we were meant to be starting this new project, and everything shut down. And I suddenly woke up one morning and I thought, we're not getting out of this quickly. We're going to be in this for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I knew that. I just thought, because at the time everybody is saying, "Wow, we're really hoping we'll be back in rehearsal by May." And I just thought, that is not going to happen. I don't know why. I just know it's not going to happen. So I think I sort of shifted gears really quickly and just went, "This is long term. So I need to settle in on that." And as soon as I did that, all the sort of panic about what about the next year, like all that and all this lost work. I mean, financially, as with all of us,
yes,
it's a struggle, and we're kind of putting pieces together. But in terms of like how I just flipped myself around, I wasn't waiting for some magic thing that was going to happen. Now, coincidentally, 2 weeks before lockdown, while I was doing the workshop in Toronto, I was commuting every week. On the day off, I was commuting out to Stratford. I was starting a writing workshop with a wonderful writer here named Alison Waring, who hosts these 6-week writing memoir courses. And so I started with her, and I'd always written, but I'd sort of written in secret. Like I would write something and then I would like put it in a file up in the top corner of the computer
Yeah.
or in a shoebox or something like that. And I finally thought, all right, I need to get on with this. And I don't know what that means, but I do. And so I started it, and it's triggered something. And I think also having the time that I'm devoting, hours each day to generating material. I'm now working with a mentor, a wonderful writer in Toronto. And it's very simple. I mean, it's not even, I wouldn't even, it doesn't even feel as though he's doing huge dramaturgy. It's more I read him something, we discuss it, and then he'll say one thing, or he'll point to one thing, and it kind of opens the door. And I've just been writing and writing, and so now we're slowly putting together what this could be and where it might go. But that's been a big focus. And I guess what I found was there were so many things that I'm interested in the world, and I always felt like I was reaching to grab them in spare time. Suddenly I had lots of spare time. So I now have 2 Spanish teachers, and I'm actually able to converse somewhat in Spanish and hold conversations. And I'm doing the writing, and I'm just looking at, I'm going to be keeping bees this summer, which again is something I did when I was a kid. And there's a wonderful actor here in the company named Lucy Peacock, who's been in this company for years and years. And she and her partner have a farm, and so I'm going to be keeping bees on their farm. And I'm picking up the cello again, and I'm starting to sing again, which I have not sung since probably before you were born. I mean, I because that's what I started out as, was an actor and
Yeah.
a singer, and then sort of morphed over into directing, and so I started singing again every day. And there's no monetization around it. Like I'm not looking to put, because I can't. I don't know what any of it is yet. It all still feels like it's bubbling. Um, but I have to be honest with you. Days feel incredibly full.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Days feel like, oh, there's so much to do and to investigate and to look at. Um, So I think the thing I keep saying to students when I'm working with, I still do some teaching online with some universities here in Canada. And, because these kids are coming out of programs, and they're conservatory programs or their undergraduate programs. And um, you know what? It sort of reminds me of when I first graduated from theater school all those years ago. At least in Canada, Canada doesn't in the same way that the US has commercial theater. There is commercial theater here, but it's not a huge industry like it is in London or New York. And when I graduated theater school, none of us really expected to immediately make a living in the theater.
Okay.
And then I remember that I was doing a play a long time ago, back in the 80s, and one of the women in the cast was sort of a generation ahead of me. And I was driving her home one night after a double show day. We had 8 shows a week, double show day, and I'm driving her home, and it's like midnight. And I said, Doris, what are you gonna do tomorrow? And she's like, oh dear, I have to be at school at 8 a.m. I was like, what? And she said, yes, I'm a supply teacher. And I was like, but Doris, you do every show this theater company does. Like, you're one of the most employed actors in I was in Vancouver. I said, you're one of the most employed actors I know. And she said, I know, but when I started out, that didn't exist. I mean, we all had 2 jobs. We were doing theater when we could, and we were making things up. And I feel like, and I was just saying this to a friend of mine who's an artistic director in New York State. We were talking about this morning.
Hmm.
And because she's trying to think of what's this summer going to do, what can we do this summer, and what will it look like? And I said, we're in a moment of incredible invention,
Yeah.
you know. And I mean, and I think that about like her with a theater company,
Right.
but I also feel individually as artists, kind of like this clears the ground for us to say, what do I really want to do? What is important to me?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Well, you know, I'm looking at your Buddha, and I'm thinking about I've seriously, and I'm just plugging in my computer before I lose anything. I started meditating pretty regularly, and in fact, Tracy, who she reintroduced her last name, and I still call her Mick. I say it incorrectly. But Tracy, you watched in the last video I made with her, she explains it. One of the things that comes up in meditation is to not get attached to outcome.
Totally.
Right? There's a morning meditation I do about, you know, my self-worth and my love and my acceptance of myself, which is huge. And you know, if I was to go there for a second, I'm the son of two ministers of Christianity, and Christianity is great in a lot of ways. There is something very Western about well, I had a Western upbringing. You probably had a Western, maybe, you know,
Totally.
but this idea I've really, and I want to ask you, like, that idea of not being attached to outcome, how in the world do I not get attached to outcome?
I know.
When in all altruism, it is lovely to pursue things with all good intentions, but until we get past a capitalist society, which I doubt we ever will, there is some bartering going on, some trade, some value we place on whether it's, you know, seashells or dollars. How do I go about doing the thing I do without remuneration and compensation that then allows me to eat, pay New York rent, get the headshots I need to continue, get the suit, get the, you know, the lighting in the room?
Right. Yeah, it's a practice. I mean, it's not an either or. It's a both.
Okay.
You know, I sort of look at it as the marketplace, and the marketplace could literally be the center of town where people showed up with their carts and sold their stuff, or it can be Broadway. It's sort of the same thing.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, so the marketplace is like the business. It's the thing. It's the people selling their wares, or it's Broadway shows, or it's whatever it is. It is the marketplace that is part of the part of a capitalist structure.
Right.
And yet you within that are not that. That is not all you are in total. And so you can function within that. It's easy. The tricky thing is it's easy to get pulled into it as though it's absolute. And it's easy to lose yourself in it. I'll tell you a story. About 2 years ago, Trace and I did a show together in Toronto. And then I did two shows that I was really proud of that year. It was 2018. And both productions were really honored at the end of the big theater awards and all that. And I won one of these awards, and I was standing on stage and I was accepting this award. as I was speaking, I had this weird out of body experience as I was talking and thanking the composer and thanking Tracy and thanking everybody in the cast. I had this weird flip moment where I thought, well, this is fun, but it's going to be over in about 2 minutes. So just enjoy this and then don't worry about it. And I walked off, and it was extraordinary. I mean, it was more than that, but that was kind of the encapsulation of it. And I got off stage and I went back to my seat, and I had a little statue and I stuck it under the seat, and then I left it there. I forgot. Left it. Literally, I left it. I just forgot it. And I went out into the lobby and I was chatting with some people and having a glass of wine and having a really nice evening. And this usher came out and said, "Is this yours?" And I went, oh yeah. And then the producer, the guy that I work with a lot in Toronto, I said, "Mitchell, can you hold on to this for me?" And I didn't see it for like 6 months until finally he said, "Either come and get this or we're going to melt it down and, you know, resell the metal or something." So, so, and now it's sitting in a, it's there, it's in a cupboard, it's in a little bag. I don't need, it doesn't, it's sort of, those moments are not the thing that we do.
Right.
And so there are things that, yes, we do have to be able to make money so that we can live. We live in that sort of society. And yet when we're in the work, it's a sort of thing that happens where you go, I'm in the work, but I'm not making it about that. I'm making it about this. And this will take care of that in some way. So a huge piece of this is trust and just knowing that you're going to do the work. And listen, it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes you have to take a contract because you go, this is going to pay really well and it's going to look after me for the next 4 months, and so I'm going to do it. And it's fine, but you still don't have to attach yourself to it.
Hmm.
You're never the thing. You're not the because the thing keeps changing all the time. So it's schizophrenic to become the thing and then the thing and then the thing and then the thing. It's like, just be inside, be this. I mean, the other way of looking at it is, I look at theater as a platform of expression.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's not an entity in and of itself. Theater doesn't have an office in the West 30s. Hello, theater speaking. May I help you? Like, there is no such thing. It's just a bunch of people getting up in the morning and doing stuff. Like somebody
So
writing a play and somebody saying, I'll
concept.
direct it. Yeah. It's not an amoeba. It doesn't divide and grow itself. It's simply people getting up and doing stuff. And so, how can we attach to something that doesn't actually even exist except as a platform for us to express who we are as artists?
All right, let me. I love that. And then you made me think. Recently, there's all these Oscar noms, Oscar buzz, and I recently saw Nomadland with Frances McDormand. It's free on Hulu right now. Very beautiful, touching, interesting story of America. But I was having very deep conversation about this idea that awards don't matter, because you won this award. I won an award for best music director in New York, the theater, the NIM. I didn't even
Right.
know it existed. I didn't even know I was nominated. I didn't even know that, because but I knew in that production, right? I went to the party and I got a text saying, "You're late and you won the best music director of the festival." And I showed up late. The director, my friend Igor Golden, was like, "Where's Micah?" My point is, and to that, because I don't have an agent, I don't have a manager, I have no one advocating for me. I knew it mattered that my name went on every postcard and every poster and every playbill, and I
Sure.
maybe at the time had rightfully so, had a chip on my shoulder that music directors often get left off, at least in my
Sure.
experience, get left off notices and stuff. And so I was like, because I think it's a union thing when I see playbills, like they list the stage manager and they list the lighting designer. Anyway, long time ago. But I won this award, and other things along the way where that gives you some currency. So with the Oscars coming up, or Tonys, or Golden Globes, it doesn't matter, but it does,
Yeah,
because if,
exactly.
if you are Oscar winning, Oscar nominated, you bet you're going to get better job offers with a better paycheck, which then gives you longevity in terms of resting between shows, resting between movies, taking that Spanish class, investing in that beehive. So how does it both matter and not matter? You know what I mean?
It's attachment. It is attachment. You don't hang on to it as though it's a lifeline. You don't grab it. It's the kind of image of, uh, this is something that was said to me a long time ago. I'm not making this up. It's sort of like if sand is pouring through the air, and sand represents abundance. It represents the flow of the world. It represents coming and going. And you've got your hand open, and the sand is pouring through your hand freely. And then you get scared and you contract and you grab. The sand is now bouncing off your hand. It's no longer flowing. And the sand that's in there just rotted. So the minute we contract and grip, and it's a constant, I mean, the thing is, in our business, and this is true in many ways probably of most of the world, but because we work in a particular industry, we understand it most. We
Yeah.
work in an industry that has a deep commitment to lack. We all have agreed that there's not enough.
Of
There's
what?
not enough success. There's not enough money. There's not enough opportunity. There's not enough possibility. There's not enough work. There's not enough. We have all agreed to the fact that there just isn't enough. And we've been raised on that, which is why all of our parents said, "You're going to do what? You know, it's like, you're not going to be a lawyer. Are you insane?" Like, that's why you're going to be an artist. Oh, for God's sake, are you mad? Like, you know, because they also go, well, there's no money in that. There's no thing. There's no security in that. There's no da 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 da. And so again, on the sort of on the plane of the material plane, that is true.
Right. Right.
Perhaps. Although, if you just turn it a little bit, you go, it becomes less. You're not grabbing it. You're not turning it into another rule about life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just softens everything. It's just like you're literally here. This, when that happens and you feel like I can't breathe, my chest has just gone tight,
Yeah.
and suddenly it just releases and you can breathe again. So my practice, because it happens all the time, you're in a situation, you're at an audition, you're in rehearsal, like stuff happens that. And when it happens, I literally, I'll just sit there and I'll just suddenly feel the palms of my hands and feel the soles of my feet. And I just put my attention into the palms of my hands and into the soles of my feet. And what it instantly does is grounds you and makes you present.
Wow.
So if something happens in rehearsal and it's upsetting or it's confusing or it's whatever, I just instantly do that, and it takes me out of my mind and puts me into my body, and then I can respond in a different way. It's not knee-jerk reactive.
Right.
I'm not responding to the stimulus that's coming at me. There's a little bit of room around it. There's a bit of space around it.
God, I feel badly I haven't talked to you sooner because you're right. And no, really, but like I'm thinking about because that's a very meditative thing, right? Wiggle your toes, feel your hands. And I can't count the number of times I've been in professional, rehearsals, auditions, classes where pits of orchestras on Broadway, where I'm so fearful of being found out, of being at fault, of not being good enough. And I
Yes.
think the fear is I'm worried about the judgment, and I'm worried that others will not trust me and I'm not trusting them.
Right.
And there's no trust. But at the same time, that has come out of experiences from other people who, not passing the buck here, but to be quick to judge themselves. But I think that's true of a lot of people, especially in the arts, especially where ego's on the line. And when, speaking of material, an average Broadway show, a cheap Broadway show is $15 million, $14 million. They don't want you to be equivocating and say, well, I'm not sure. They want, this is how it is. You get very decisive energy with people. And I've had directors be very like that with you. It does not engender the sense of vulnerability that we're all being taught or told to have. Those two things exist. It's very tricky.
It is very, very tricky, and I understand because I've been in the room, down at the old, I don't know what it's even called now, the old Michael Bennett studios down on Broadway, and rehearsing shows and going,
Oh, yeah.
it's where we rehearse the tours of Mamma Mia, and I go, oh my God, I'm in charge of this thing now. Like,
Gibson.
I've got to actually get a show ready to go on
Yeah.
the road and make people a lot of money.
Right.
And it would panic me. I would literally feel like I was hyperventilating a little bit. And then I realized one day I kind of there was one particular rehearsal in New York that I really felt that sort of pressure. And then I was out walking on a day off, and I thought, okay, that's enough. Like, that's enough. Stop it. What are my tasks? what are my tasks here? I know the job. I understand the show. I know what I'm doing. I've prepared for this. I have the work.
Mhm.
And so I simply, every time it would come up, I mean, here's another way of doing it. It's like the mind is never not, it's like mad chipmunks in the head. And I think, okay, well, carry on, go ahead. I'm just going to step a level above you so that I'm looking at what you're saying and doing, but I'm not going to engage it.
Right.
You know, or I don't know if there's any skiers out there, but when I was young, they used to have these things called rope tows, which were horrifying to me because it was literally a rope that ran up the hill and went through a big, huge wheel and then came down. Yeah, and I was always terrified I was going to get caught in the wheel. But anyway, you know, you'd stand there and you'd be holding your hands and the rope would be running through your gloves.
God.
And then you'd grab it and off you would go. And that's sort of like the mind. The hand is open
Mm.
and the mind is the rope tow, and you can choose to either grip or not.
Right. Right. Well, I think if I think about my best work, it's when I'm in the work and I'm both enjoying it, but also not really caring too much.
Yeah, letting go,
I mean, yeah.
letting go. And because I think also it's, you know, I remember this last rehearsal that I did a year ago. I remember on the first day, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to say to the company. I didn't really want to talk. I mean, we were going to talk about the show and, you
Yeah.
know, la la la. But then I wanted to say something else, and I suddenly opened my mouth. And I think I said something like, the world is on fire right now, which literally it was. This was January a year ago, and Australia was actually on fire, as was California, as were
Right.
parts of the West Coast,
Right.
including near Vancouver. And I said, the world is on fire right now, and we're running out of time. And so if we cannot be absolutely present to the tasks involved in this project, then let's all just go home right now and not even bother, because what's the point? And there was some silence, and then I said, and here's the other thing. I'm not here. I'm here and I'm doing tasks, but I'm not a thing. I'm not a concrete object. I'm not like a block sitting behind a table on a chair. I'm here, but we're all here, but let's sort of take the thing out of it and just be present. And it was a big show and we had a limited amount of time to do it. And it felt like we had lots of time, and there were some powerhouse people in that cast, so there was stuff on the floor and it never ever got in the way because it just joined the mix. It just joined the mix of doing this work.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, I mean, trying to stay present when everything around you and you know, the other thing I was thinking about, how do we continue what we do when the world is on fire? And I think a lot of people have argued, not a lot, but in some people have said, well, you know, we can't support the arts right now. You need to get a you need to get a regular job or something. I'm like, I have nothing else. Like, I mean, that almost seems like a non-starter, right? But what do you say to people when they're like, it's non-essential? I mean, essentially, we're not essential in the medical sense, but I worry that the arts in particular are uniquely in trouble in that we're not part of the conversation about restoring restaurants or airlines or hotels or the subways. Where do we fall?
I know. I think it's a different question. And again, I spent sort of half my life in Canada and half my life
Right.
in New York. So it is a different equation because a lot of what New York functions on is that commercial level. And the
Oh, yeah.
commercial theater is wrapped into tourism, it's wrapped into travel, it's wrapped into hotels, restaurants. It's all in a mix in New York City. And even the large institutionalized not-for-profits like the Public and Lincoln Center, they're kind of in that situation as well. I mean, I guess I sort of look at it and I think, well, they're a part. I would deconstruct that a little bit for yourself. So this whole thing about it's a non-starter, I don't do anything else. Here's an interesting exercise. Imagine that there is no industry. Imagine that there is no theater, no film, no television, no radio, no YouTube, no nothing. You can't, there's no platform for performance, expression.
Okay.
What would you do? You don't have to have an answer right now.
Well, it goes back to what you said about doing what you love. And I think, I mean, if I'm just looking at my piano over here. I think for me, there is something very resting, very safe or certain about playing the piano. I mean, for me, that's at the heart of everything.
Yeah.
Storytelling, composition, songwriting, singing, music. I mean, that is at the heart of so much. That then, I mean, thinking about whether I'm writing script or I'm writing prose or I'm lyric. I mean, all the other things I do, it's still at the heart of it. And I'd probably be reading books. I feel like I've just discovered in the last couple of months. It's taken me most of this pandemic, a year of this, to be like, I'm going to make time to read. I've never made time to read. I'm always like, I can only do it while I'm on the subway going somewhere.
Right.
But it goes back to what you said about doing what you love. And I just watched a little video and there was a quote saying, for all the people who are afraid to pursue what they love, they pursue things they don't. And if they failed at something they don't love. Like if you lose your job that you hate, like losing a job you already hate, why fail at what you don't love when you've yet to even try and perhaps fail at what you do love? I mean, at least then you've put your heart into something.
Right.
Let's say, what would you be doing if there was no, well, maybe you're doing it.
Well, I think I am sort of doing it in a way. And there have always been, I mean, I've always loved, to me, a rehearsal room and a really great piece of material and a really extraordinary company. There's really nothing like that. Like 3 chairs, a piano, and a great company and worthy material is and then just standing in the middle of that, standing on the floor with your feet on the ground in the middle of that is a very, very unique and very kind of sacred experience, to be honest. Not to put too big a word on it, but there's a little bit of a holy experience in there to do that, because you are channeling things collectively in the creation of something.
Yeah.
And then I look at, what strikes me immediately is that I've always been fascinated, I've always been really drawn to visual art, to painting and to sculpture. And so for a while I thought I could get a degree in art history. Not now, but years and years ago, I remember thinking I could get a degree in art history. I'd be really happy. Because I also like to be quite solitary and I love doing things that allow me to just sort of be on my own and kind of do what I'm doing. So that really appealed to me. I will tell you one other thing that I'm doing right now, and whether or not I ever use it, I don't know. But I started thinking about the one thing I have woken with often a kind of yearning for, particularly in the last few months, is the world, because I travel a lot. I love traveling. I don't love flying for very, very obvious reasons, just because, and I don't mean because of the pandemic, I just mean because of the footprint. But being able to be in the world and experience other culture and other language and other people has always been very meaningful to me. So right now I'm in the middle of doing my TEFL certification, which is teaching English as a foreign language. And I'm doing it through the University of Toronto. And it's an intense program, but once I have it, I will actually be certified to go to Cambodia, because I think I have an adopted son in Cambodia. Yeah. So I would be able to theoretically go to Cambodia for 4 months and teach and stay with him, but really be in the country and I don't think you earn huge money with these teaching jobs, but enough to survive. Mexico is another favorite country of mine. I work there a lot and I teach there a lot. I teach theater there a lot. But to be able to go and work outside in smaller towns and smaller places. So I look at the world as the world to me just looks like this enormous opportunity for so many different experiences. And I think what happens to us in the theater is we zero in on this thing. I've got to do this thing. I've got to do this thing. I remember the first time I went to the Himalayas, I was in Kathmandu and I met this guy was I was walking through the town and I got totally lost because there are no street signs in Kathmandu and there are no addresses. So when you're lost, you're just lost. And I was standing there and I suddenly hear this voice behind me and there's this guy sort of saying something to me and I turn around and he's come out of his shop and we start having this conversation and by the end of we talked for maybe 20-25 minutes and it was clear to me that he was kind of a tour guide and so he was trying to say I'll be your tour guide if you want and then you won't get lost. And so at the end of it I said all right, look, let's cut to the chase. You're great, you obviously know the city and so it's your hometown, so let's do this. How much will you charge? And we figured out the rate. And then for the next 10 days, he would meet me every morning at my hotel. And then we would walk through the city and he showed me all these different parts of Kathmandu. And at one point he took me up into this temple area and we were standing there talking and he said to me, "What do you do?" And so I was trying to explain commercial theater to him. Now, this is somebody who speaks fluent and perfect English. He knows the world. He is connected to the world. It's not like our sort of often Western idea about other countries. Like this is somebody who's very sophisticated and intelligent and thoughtful. But Broadway was not really part of his thing. So he listened to me. He listened to me very intently as I explained what it was. And he said, "Oh, well, this sounds like a great place to go for a couple of hours." And I started laughing and I said, "Yeah, that's perfect."
Wow. I love it.
And it's so it's like if we can just lighten up a little bit,
Right.
And just let things, not take everything to heart. Because we're in a business where that's so easy to do.
Well, for actors in particular, you are the product. I mean, if you're a door-to-door salesman selling, I don't know, dishes or knives or whatever, then there's a product outside of yourself. But when you are for actors, and I coach this, I preach this much, in a similar way, and so it's nice to hear it. That you are a product that you're putting in auditions, and you're I say product. That sounds a little callous, but no, you are not. You talk about attachment this way, right? Like it's not you that they're not taking. If you get rejected, and we're going to get rejected, we're not. Someone said to me the other day, it's like if you're at an ice cream shop and you're a pistachio and they want cookies and cream, they're going to have. So you're still delicious ice cream.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And there are so many, in terms of auditions, I mean, and having sat for as often as I have and as you have on the other side of the table, the conversations are so complicated at the end of the day when you go to the floor and start putting everybody's pictures around and try to figure out what you're going to do and who's going to stay in the yes possible list. You may have somebody who is absolutely perfect and wonderful, and they're not going to get into that list. They're not going to move forward, but not for any reason other than X, Y, da, 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 da. So, and I think it's, yes, we have to view ourselves as a commodity in some way.
That's
and yet have a sense when you walk in the room, I'm enough. Like what happens if your little mantra, right, when you're sitting out there, rather than going, rather than that, just go, I'm enough. I'm enough. I'll tell you, when I was still acting, the best audition experience I ever had when I was still an actor was back in the late 80s, and they were going to do a sit-down production of Les Mis in Toronto. And I was in Vancouver. Now, to fly from Vancouver to Toronto is like flying from Los Angeles to New York. It's quite a flight. So I had done an audition in Vancouver, and they said, we'd like you to come to Toronto. And I was in rehearsal for a little show in Vancouver. So I literally, at the end of the day, ran out to the airport, got the red-eye flight, right, leaving Vancouver at 10, getting into Toronto at like 6 a.m., slept badly for about 2 hours. And
Right.
it was this kind of weather. It was like this bone cold, weird Toronto, Ontario weather. So of course, immediately I'm from the West Coast, so my, all that moisture and all that moist air was like gone. So I felt like my throat just went like this. So there I am in a church where they're doing the auditions, and I think I'm not going to squawk a note. Like nothing's going to come out, and I'm jet lagged. I'm just gonna go out the door now and get a taxi and go back to the airport and not even do this.
Oh,
And I was literally, I have never been so frightened in my life. I've never been so nervous. And every time they'd open the door, I would see there'd be like 25 people. There was Cameron McIntosh. There were the guys who run, like everybody was in there. And suddenly they opened the door and they said, Robert McQueen, you're in next. And so I go in, and somehow, as I was crossing the threshold of that door, and pardon my language, I thought, oh, you know what? Fuck it. Here I am. I'm enough. And I walked in and I just stood there and I sang, and it was not about anything other than I was having a chance to do a thing that I loved to do and that I felt I was pretty good at. And I didn't know whether I was going to get the job, and that became irrelevant.
right. Right.
And all there was to do was to be there and to do this thing that I love. And then they said, would you sing this? And can you try that? And let's do this. And then I walked out the door and I got on a plane and I flew back to Vancouver. And my agent met me at the airport and he said, how did it go? And I said, good, good. And he said, do you think you have a chance? And I said, I don't care. I don't know. Maybe. That's not a thing. I love the doing of it. And that moment, and then of course I did get cast, and that moment transformed my experience of auditions, which was, oh my God, this is a 30-second or a 1 minute or a 5 minute opportunity for me to do a thing that I love doing and that I am really good at. It's a chance for me to put my voice into the world. The result, I don't hold that. That's over there beyond that, on the other side of that table. But I can be who I am.
Wow. I'm just thinking I've been thinking about times where we are attached to the outcome, because if I get that job, it's going to be that paycheck and that long contract and Broadway and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know if maybe that was a turning point. It sounds like a turning point for you. I have found that I completely sabotage all my training.
Totally.
Not even think that I'm good enough, where it's like, no, I've trained for this, but I'm not trusting myself because I feel like I'm taking this exam where all of a sudden my mind goes blank and I cannot function on the most basic level. Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, and this is something to take to heart. A friend of mine is a career coach, very well respected career coach in New York, and I've worked with him for decades. And one day we were having this exact conversation, and he sort of went, "Stop, stop, stop." He said, "Do you know that in that chair that you are sitting in right now, I have some of the world's most successful CEOs, people who run multinational corporations. And at some point in every conversation, every single one of them has said, I'm a fraud, and I'm terrified I'm going to get found out."
Wow.
Every single one of them, everyone who exists on the planet thinks they're a fraud. That's just the way it is. Like that's just
how it is? What's that?
Huh?
Say
sorry, yeah. Say it.
Are we frauds because of what we're taught and that industry of lacking?
But these are people who are like bankers. These are people who are doctors. It's just part of the human experience. It's just part of the human experience. I'll tell you a secret. I have had people walk into an audition room, trip over the ledge at the door, fall on their face, drop their music, forget their notes, start in the wrong key, start again, vomit into the wastebasket. And I've cast them at the end. It doesn't matter. It's there, in your auditions, if you go in there thinking, I have to do this perfect, automatically you're done. Right. Because everything in you will go, oh no, no. no, we're not doing it perfectly. But if you walk in there and something happens, like the people who walk in and they forget their lyric or they start in the wrong tempo or whatever, and they simply go, oh, okay, we're going to just start that again and blah, 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 blah. I look at that and I think, oh, there's a human being.
But how do you, that to me thinks of the times where someone's just not prepared versus the humanity of not subscribing to perfection, but maybe not having done their homework? Or is that just a fluid thing?
You can tell the difference. Like if somebody comes in and they don't care and they haven't looked at it and they don't know it, you can tell. If somebody comes in and they're a little nervous or they're having a rough day or whatever, you can tell. You just feel it. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'm singular in that. I think most people who are sitting behind the desk, even though whatever they look like, whatever they're doing, they're going to understand that. So give yourselves a break. Like give yourselves a break and be kind to yourselves and just go, and if something weird happens, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can stop or you can correct it or you can do whatever you need to do. I mean, the other way of looking at it is if you have 5 minutes in the room, it's your 5 minutes. And everybody behind that desk wants you to be good because they want to get the show cast. They don't want to be casting 6 months from now.
Yeah, I tell that to a lot of people, like they want you to be the answer to the question. They want you to be the right fit, or the fit that's
totally
going to make the piece work. So it's not everyone's rooting for you.
So I think within all of that, it's the practice of it starts in the preparation of the material. It's like staying soft. I'll tell you something really interesting. When I first moved to New York, this was in the 80s, and it was a very different, the theater culture was very different. And I always remember seeing people like on Broadway, on the streets, or coming out of rehearsal rooms, or walking up 8th Avenue, and they'd always looked like, get out of my way. Get out of my way. Like there was this edge, and I always thought, oh God, is that what I need to be? I'm going to fail at that. I'm not going to be very good at that.
He's like John Wayne, like, get out of the way, little pilgrim. Like
exactly. And just this edge about them. And I thought, how do you transform that in a rehearsal room when your job is to be vulnerable and open and available and possible? How do you pull that gear change?
But I have to add on to that I got to New York in the early 2000s. I came here for school, but I molded myself after that. There was a similar energy around music directors, I found, especially young. Like there is camaraderie, but there's also this tenacity and vigilance to do the work. But I remember thinking I had to be more tough-edged to be taken seriously because I was so young.
Right.
But then as I got older, thinking, oh no, I have to be cooler, I have to be calmer. No, if I'm too calm and collected, they don't think I'm serious about it. If I'm too edgy, I'm too severe, right. Which I've seen both. And I'm like, how does it work for them, but not for them? And it comes down, I guess that's partly personality, but I kept molding myself after people I was looking up to and people I was working for and with, thinking, they don't take anything. They don't take any crap from anyone. So I've got to be tough like that. And it kind of made me, I felt like a jerk sometimes.
Yeah. I just think it's when you're in the situation and you are present and you are really listening. And you're actually present to it, you will know exactly how to respond to something. And this idea of, because I think we tend to do that, but again, particularly in our business, we will shape ourselves, but then all we're doing is running around wearing a bunch of masks. And so how is it possible to be authentic when you're behind a mask? Nobody knows what's there.
Well, it's that age-old thing of trying to be someone else's second fiddle. I mean, that there's that story of Gershwin. I tell this one a lot. It goes to Ravel for lessons because Gershwin never felt good enough. He kept going to Nadia Boulanger for composition. Then Ravel said to him, "Why would you be a second-rate Ravel when you're a first-rate Gershwin?"
Exactly.
We're always trying to, what works for that person, what works for you. I'm sure you've seen this. I love your methodology, your sense of self and philosophy about how to do it. When we did the master class, I think it was one of the last things I did, the master class we did together, and classes I played where, there is an inclusive quality. You've taken, I want to speak for you, you've taken years to come to that place. Or maybe the party has always been there and it's the discovery.
Yeah, part of it perhaps was always there because I always did look at other opportunities. I never thought, I mean, I love doing this, and I have basically been doing this in one form or another for 40 years. And so I just never felt I was owed anything. I never felt attached to it, which is not the same thing as I've always prepared, ready. It's like I've done my work.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many complicated add-ons that we have. And so the other day I was thinking, a friend of mine was talking to me about ambition. Like really, like Ruth, like the kind of ambition that sort of, cutthroat ambition.
Right.
And I said, oh, look, let's face it. Ambition is just the ego on crack cocaine dancing naked in the backyard at 3 a.m. It's right. Like it's so interested in itself. It's like, stop doing that. Get in here. You're going to get pneumonia. It's like,
but wait, unpack that more, because I think ambition serves it serves a purpose to some degree of motivating factions. I have to do my homework. I have to be ready.
That's passion.
That's passion. Yeah, because I want this. I do want it.
That's integrity, and that's passion, and that's clarity, and that's commitment. Ambition literally is the ego dancing on the head of a pin, spinning around, because it's all about I am. It's like, oh, stop. Stop with the I am.
It's pure adulation. I just want the applause, right?
Totally. I mean, the test is, because we have all of these platforms now, right?
Right.
And so the simple acid test is, how addicted am I to the winky faces and the happy hearts and how addicted am I to that? And if you're really honest about it, that gives you an indication as to how addicted we are to what the ego is telling us we need.
I look at it, yes, and I look at it, the attention to the posting, whether it's for other things like Patreon, or I'm doing a collaboration with the university, or I'm doing a thing for a school. The likes, the shares, the tweets, the love, the little hearts, that to me indicates whether it's a vote of confidence or like someone did a poll.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, so 33 people liked that thing. Oh, that got 200 views.
Yeah.
And I know
that's good.
What's that?
That's good. Then you're in the marketplace and you're going, I've got great pans. Come and look at my frying pans. They're really good. Like, that's all well and good. But you don't go home and go, I am a frying pan. Like, you just put the stuff down and you go home and have some nice bowl of soup.
How does that translate? Are you saying we have to put ourselves on a diet when it comes to the social media adulation doesn't really, it's empty calories.
Yeah. And so you do it for business, and you do it to get the word out, and I'm doing this show, or I'm working on this, or you might be interested in that. That's just business. That's business. That is the marketplace. But just like I said earlier, we are not the marketplace. We're an individual artist who has to step into the marketplace, but stay autonomous and clear and present within ourselves in the marketplace so that we don't get lost in the marketplace. Because then you just wind up, you know.
Well, you're chasing, I mean, I had this image, or at least it was a title for my memoir of the pandemic. And I think it was something like chasing my greased up pig named Happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just trying to catch a pig in the pen that's covered in grease.
Totally.
And I named that pig Happiness.
You know, the other thing is, and this is, I mean, this is tricky because we're talking about sort of mortality, but the thing is, you know, let's consider the fact that what we think, the importance of what we achieve is somehow, you know, the movie Fame did a lot of damage with that song, I'm Gonna Live Forever. Fame, I'm gonna live forever. No, we're not.
Right.
No, we're not.
Right.
No, we're not. And so the most famous people in the world, you know, listen, even before Hal Prince died, there were a lot of college students who'd never heard of him. And he was still on the planet. So,
That seems, if you're talking about theater students, that's just a shameful education, but go on.
well, but the whole point of it is, I think about amazing people in Canada, theater makers, actors, designers, and they're gone. And a year later, no one's hanging on to this stuff. We're hardwired to move ahead and to survive and to keep going.
Right.
So the thing of it is, being present doesn't let you get ahead of yourself, and it doesn't let you stay back there thinking about all the past glories. You're simply here. And it'll be what it will be, but you'll be okay with it. It might be disappointing. You might go, that was too bad. That could have been better. I could have done better. But what did I learn from? What am I going to do now? You know, it's like you're staying in the moment of it, not projecting 5 years from now, not slinging yourself back 20 years ago.
But the mortality brings into, I think about this a lot though, like what happens after I'm gone? Have I left the planet? Have I left this place a better place? Did I impact people in a way that I would want to impact? Does anything I do matter? I mean, then I get Robert, I get so into that existential, does anything matter? Because, you know, if no one knows who I am, did I make a difference?
Yeah, they will. Yes, they will. I mean, that is the thing. So now we're talking metaphysics.
Right. And
there is no separation. There is no separation. You're in New York. I'm in Stratford. There is no separation. My son is in Cambodia. I'm in Stratford. There is no separation. There literally is no separation other than the ego telling us there is. So once you start morphing out of that, then everything we think and everything we say and everything we do has an impact.
Mm.
And so then the clarity of going, I'm really going to make it my practice to put into the world that which I want to receive back.
Mm.
Because, and it's, you know, it's not like, well, I put good stuff in and I didn't win a Tony yet. No.
I was about to ask. I mean, I was about to ask, should I give expecting to receive? My love is with strings.
You just do it because it's who you are. Mm-hmm. You're putting stuff into the world because you come from a place of loving the world and loving people and loving, you know, it doesn't mean you want to have lunch with everybody. But you are, you know, even the people you don't want to have lunch with, you can still love them. Yeah. And so you're just going, I got it. Here I am. And so when we pass through and carry on, then there is something that is left. And we don't know what's going to affect other people. We don't know. The tiniest thing that you forget 2 weeks from now could trigger somebody to make a right-hand turn and head off in a certain direction that will change their life. And they will remember you forever. Mm-hmm. Because you took a moment and you said something kind and you made a suggestion and you did it, but you did it from a place of kindness and love and caring about the planet and the individuals in the planet and the collective of the planet.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really. it makes me think of that time where I didn't know if what I was doing mattered. When I was in high school conducting my first musical, and I think it was my mother said, "You don't know it, who's watching in the dark room. Uh, who needs that? It was we were doing Wizard of Oz. Who needs that escape right now?"
Right.
Mamma Mia. I forgot we both have such a connection to Mamma Mia, and that speaking of escapism, people love it, and it serves a purpose that is greater than ourselves. Being
Totally.
what it is, being so lighthearted, but it gives people 3 hours of carefree existence.
Totally. Totally. You know, it's that wonderful letter that appeared on when we were at the Winter Garden. A wonderful letter shortly after we opened appeared on the on the company board,
Yeah.
from Meryl Streep. And because we opened, we were the second show to open after 9/11.
In New York, or in the Winter Garden in New York, or
at the Winter Garden in New York. We were the second show.
Yeah, it's October.
Urinetown opened first, and then we opened second. We opened on the 18th of October in 2001. And Meryl Streep came with a group of friends from wherever she lives, and she brought her daughter, who I think was sort of a teenager then. Mm-hmm. And she wrote this exquisite letter, which got handed on to the company manager, which was then posted on the wall so we could all see it. And basically it was her thanking everybody for this show, because she said, you know, I brought my daughter, and we were all still in shock at what had happened down at the south end of the island. And she said, and my daughter had been very closed off. She'd really gone into herself. And she said, suddenly at some point in the evening, I looked over and she was laughing. And she was suddenly outside of herself again. She was in the room again.
Yeah.
And she said, and that was true for all of us. We all laughed and we cried and we sang and we were on our feet at the end dancing. And she said, it's a real gift. That show is a gift to this city at this moment. You know, so you could look at Mamma Mia and laugh and go, oh my God, it's an ABBA musical. Or you could look at it and go, like you said, it offers something really beautiful in its spirit. And I think that's true of anything. To judge any show as worthless, I mean, there's some that might not be very good, but, but that's not the same thing as worthless. Who knows?
Well, but Mamma Mia does what it sets out to do very well.
Totally.
In that, it's not bad in that. It's not a. You want to measure it for what it sets out to do.
Totally.
And it succeeds, and then there's the mega mix and Waterloo, and you get that little bit extra, and everyone's ecstatic. Robert, I feel like this is a good. We gotta Meryl Streep is a great place to because it all comes back to Meryl.
Have you heard all of this? Because I know we had some technical stuff. Has most of it come through?
I think so. I will, when we're done, I will send you. Well, I'll take a look at the recording. But before we end, is there, for anyone who sees this, and thank you for all your insights, where can people find you, and what do you want to have them come check out online, in person? Where can you find your bees?
I'm such a not online person. The only thing I'm on is Instagram.
I love it. Yes, I see you there.
Yeah, I'm there. But I will tell you, I made a decision because Tracy and I talked a lot about this. I was off Facebook for a long time. And Tracy said, and I said, I think I might do Instagram because it's just pictures. So my Instagram account is the dullest account on that platform because all I do is post pictures of bees and trees, rivers, snowbanks, skies. Like all I want to, so there's nothing.
Sounds great.
There's nothing in there about career. It's very sad.
Very, very peaceful. Sounds very contemplative. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how we're going to come out of this. I'm very keen. I will tell you the one thing I'm really intent on coming out of this is that I feel like I'm at a point in life where all I really want to do is mentor. That's true. All I really want to do, I mean, I still want to direct and I still want to be on the floor and I still want to be in the room, but I really want to mentor people now.
Mm.
Because when I was younger, there was a lack of that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the first mentor I had was Hal Prince when I worked with him on Showboat, because I was on Showboat back in the 90s, and I feel like that was the first place I actually had somebody who was like here, and I had somebody to mentor me. And I think that is deeply missing in our culture.
Yes.
And really want to be available to, and I don't know how that's going to unfold yet. I just keep throwing it out into the universe and saying, let me be of service now. Let me be of service.
Mm.
Let me be of service to this work, not to the industry, but to the work. Let me be of service to the art of this.
That's beautiful. And I agree. When I was starting out, I could not find a music director willing or comfortable enough to do that. I think it takes a healthy ego, but also this lack of ego to say, I can share with you as not safely, but like I think there's a sense of like you said with the hand and it's like, no, it's mine.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, no, you want to be give that because as we you're right, as we're mortal, we pass on, and as we pass on, we need to pass on
Totally
what we know.
And there is a sense. The one thing I always say to people, because that thing of going, no, it's mine, I'm not sharing it, I don't want anybody else to have it. Oh, for hell, to God's sake.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing to protect.
It's for everyone.
There is nothing to protect.
Mm-hmm.
What can there be to protect?
Oh my
God. And then you just laugh and have a cup of tea.
I love your laugh. I love your smile, man. You are just now. I said we were going to end, but now I have to ask. No, really well, and then we'll hang on because I'll stop the recording. But what was the checkoff? You said, "Am I mad? Is this unbridled happiness, or is it checkoff?"
Oh yeah, I know. Isn't that funny? I was just thinking. Well, because in this year I have had these experiences of literally unbridled happiness, just happiness for no reason, for no circumstance. And so initially I thought, is this madness or Chekhov? Because characters in Chekhov are always saying, I'm unaccountably happy, and then sort of doing emotional chaînés off stage. So I thought, oh my God, this must be either madness or Chekhov. And then as I've sort of gone on through the year, I keep thinking, if we try to get back everything that we had prior to the last year, that will be madness. And if we constantly yearn for the things that have been lost, that will definitely be Chekhov.
That's great. So we're heading into the unknown.
We're heading into the unknown. We're heading into a new possible.
Mm-hmm. And as you said earlier, a point of, how did you put it? Not a point of creation, but the transition. This moment is full of ripe with opportunity.
Ripe with opportunity. So many things, and so really for all of us, it's to just. Somebody said to me the other day with this idea of there being lack and us being so committed to lack. And again, pardon my language, but somebody was asking me about that. And I said, you know what? If there's not room at the table, burn the fucking table and knock the walls down and put the chairs out and everybody get in the room. There's room for everybody.
I love burn the table. Make a bigger table.
Just get rid of it entirely. Let's all just stand around or lie on our backs or stand on our heads and just get on with it. Let's go.
I love that. I'm gonna stop the recording here.
Okay.
You're great. This is great. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like it, love it, share it, tweet it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and join me on Patreon. Patreon.com/MicahYoungMusic. I'll see you there. Bye!